And the last episode of Batman Cape Crusader brings you a compassionate and remorseful villain. What are we going to see next? Batman with a gun?
Hey, hold on.
So here we are, the last episode, The Savage Knight. 10 episodes in the first season. This is wrapping it up, so a lot of weight on this one. And I gotta say, it's pretty much a continuation of the previous episode, episode 9, without being a two-parter. So if you haven't seen my review for episode 9, click the link on the screen. Otherwise, let's keep diving into the last episode. Here we go.
All right, let's go.
This one sort of breaks all the rules, and that's what's so wild. I mean, not only is it a two-parter without being a two-parter.
Wait, what?
But we see Harvey Dent, Two-Face, or we don't call him Two-Face, and he's sort of a compassionate character and a little remorseful. I mean, he starts out in jail. It's a total flip-flop. Usually we've seen Two-Face where the evil side is sort of taking over. This one, we really see the opposite. We see a struggle of him trying to do what's right, the remorse of what he's done, to go, lock me up. I don't deserve mercy. I don't deserve to be released and rehabilitated and all of that. That's a version of a villain I don't think we've ever seen, where they're like, nope, I'm bad, lock me away and throw away the key, which is even more interesting because he's the former district attorney and former lawyer and was always out to do what's best for him and not always looking out for what's best for others. And here we see him becoming a villain, getting acid thrown in his face to go, yeah, you know what? I'm bad. I don't deserve second chances.
Let me rot in here. I don't deserve help.
So wild. It's not even just like a reform episode of a villain, which we've seen plenty of those in the original series. This one sort of plays out the story to the end, and we'll talk all about that, which, by the way, before I get too deep into it, there will be spoilers in this episode. I'm not pulling any punches as I talk about this, so if you haven't seen this episode, or really haven't seen the series yet, this is not a review to entice you to watch the series. This is a breakdown of what happened in the episode. So if you haven't watched it yet, please pause here, save it in your watch later, go watch the episode. It's on Amazon Prime. Come back and we'll talk all about it.
Well, I'm not leaving.
I'll tell you another thing that's sort of wild in this episode. It's kind of random to notice this, but Batman with a phone.
You have a phone number?
This show obviously pulls a lot of influences from a lot of different series, and it's very much a melting pot of the best versions or coolest versions of all these different shows. And the fact that we have Matt Reeves working on it, and Bruce Timm, and J.J. Abrams, like all very accomplished producers that have had their hand in Batman at one time or another. I just imagine this meeting of all of them going, well, I did this in mine, and I did this in mine. Let's do that. Oh, I like what you did. You know, this very like cool version of all these different things. To see Batman with a phone in this is wild because, again, that's a direct throwback to the old 60s version, which is campy and comedy and funny.
Help! Naturally so.
This one, as we use this world to like, okay, a little more serious, a little darker, a little bit more moody, and kind of a new version of Batman. Well, yeah, I do have a phone.
Klondike 50127.
It's just wild. Even when Montoya, it was Montoya, right? Yeah, when she calls Batman, it was even that, like getting Alfred, okay, hang on, I'll connect you, plug into the receiver, boom, and it goes right through to Batman. It was cool. It's a little silly, but it works. And the way they played it works even more. They didn't make it silly. They didn't have the dome lifting up and let's call, the special phone that's in my office. They made it kind of serious, but it seems funny, but it also makes perfect sense. And she even makes a joke about like, what do you want me to just
leave a blue light on in the window?
Yeah, the bat signal, which we accept as like, oh, that's cool and the way things should be, is a little silly.
What's he talking about?
We dig even further into Bullock and Flass in this. This episode really sort of puts a cap on all those things we sort of tease throughout the show to go, nope, this is what we're doing with this. That's not just a tease. I mean, Flass and Bullock in this version, in this episode especially, are full-out mobsters. I mean, they are just mobsters that work at the police department. They really doubled down on it. It's more than just, oh, they're getting paid off by the mob to look the other way. And they're literally talking about Boss Thorne and doing the dirty work and them just being hired muscle by the mob. Like, they are full-on mobsters that work at the police department.
Pretty sharp, Flass.
Again, they just sort of push the limits to the max, and I like it. I like Bullock in the comics. I like Bullock in the animated series, which those two versions are quite different. I think it's cool.
There's still nothing they got on us that'll stick.
To bring this full circle, one of the things that first drew me to this show was Batman. Second thing that made me enjoy the early episodes of this show is that 1940s aesthetic. That is something that I've always enjoyed and something I really liked. I did an episode a while ago talking about before the Batman movie came out, and it was Matt Reeves talking about what was going to be incorporated in the movie and what we knew so far. And in that, you can watch it up here if you want, because he was talking about leaning more into that 1940s noir. And I was excited about that. And I think I said in that one that I would love to see a Batman in the 40s as noir. And they very much deliver that in this show. And case in point in this episode, that whole second half of the episode taking place on the docks and the fog and protecting their key witness from the mob and the police and all these other people trying to get to him. Very noir, very stylistically appropriate. And I love it. I mean, that just, again, on a visual standpoint, that could have taken place anywhere. That could have been any version of that trope. But the docks, so film noir, so 1940s. Again, an element that you wouldn't see today necessarily. And I like that they kind of lean into it in this episode.
You see him, you shoot.
We also really get back to that Batman versus a mob. It's interesting, I talked about this in a previous episode, that I'm like, I really like that, but I also think that they're doing the right thing in this to go, we got a mixture. There's some episodes very focused on Batman bringing down the mob. Then we have some episodes that are a little more fantastic with the supernatural, and so I think they have the right balance there.
You don't bend with the world when it goes bad.
And then the other big flip-flop there at the end is we see Batman with a gun. And I think what's great about that sequence is because they've sort of spent the whole season toying with what they are or are not going to do in this show and really kind of breaking the mold of different characters and going, forget what you know about Two-Face, Bullock, Lucius Fox, Alfred, all these characters. When Batman picked up the gun, I was like, what's going to happen? I mean, is he going to shoot him? Depending on your version of Batman, you know, does he not kill? Does he kill? In the very early comic books, Batman had a gun. That was, again, a sort of throwback to those old styles, but I was like, I was prepared for Batman to full-on kill this guy, and this to be like, here we go. This is the show. He doesn't, but he does think about it. I think I would have been fine either way. If we have Batman who is a killer and can snap and can go too far and see what that does with the stories, or what we saw, which was he got right up to the edge and he did pull the trigger, but missed, I would say deliberately. That was cool. They did their work throughout the series and earned that moment that I was sitting there as a fan of Batman and going, is this going to happen? Is this the version of Batman we're going to see? I think that was a great moment and a great flip-flop. Again, something we don't see all the time.
I never saw it.
And this story really was Two-Face redemption. I will go on record and say I'm disappointed that they shot him. I guess it could be argued we don't know if he's dead, and I think I subscribe to the idea that in comic books, nobody's truly dead. This can very easily be explained away, and he survives, and we see him in the second season, and I hope we do.
I'm trying to remember if I was ever as naive as you.
But by all accounts, they shot him. He's gone, right? They've done that a couple of times on the show, and I get it. It's like, it's unexpected, especially this one where he sacrifices himself to protect Montoya. A full-on redemption story there where he wouldn't have done that. Not Montoya, Barbara Gordon. Because literally in I think it was the first episode where the two of them but we met the two of them. They were at odds. They were enemies. They were on opposite sides of the courtroom. And so to see full circle him being redeemed is kind of cool. I want to do an episode here coming up talking about the whole season and talking about the whole show and kind of my final thoughts on that. But I'll give you a preview just to say that I think that really this season, the arc of this whole season has been Harvey Dent's story. To start out one way and now be redeemed at the end.
Something that reminded you of yourself?
And of course, we see a great final shot of Batman, very much an homage to the original series. And obviously, we get the tease of the Joker, which I'm sure got a lot of people excited. It definitely, just the little sliver that we saw was giving me the Laughing Man vibes from the old silent movie that Joker was based on. I like that they're teasing and setting up for the future. And I think what's interesting too about this episode is it sort of, some of those elements to it, it's sort of time-wise, sort of dovetails right into, you could imagine this show picking up with Batman the Animated Series. We just go right into the first episode on Leather Wings with Batman. And if you want to see my review of that, click the link on your screen, and I will see you in the next episode.